fresh out the box.
Fresh California plums.
Welcome to another episode of Fresh Film Fridays, the podcast where two dudes pick the newest films streaming or in theaters and discuss them. Today we're talking about 2022's Speak No Evil, which was directed by Christian Taftrup and is currently streaming on Shudder. I'm your co-host, Alec.
On Eric. Just kidding, it's Justin. You saw this on Shudder?
It's a Shudder exclusive, right? Yeah.
Well, I went to Apple, and it's through AMC, so I signed up for a week free of AMC, but then you can just cancel it.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't watch it on Shudder. I paid for it. I just rented it for like $6 or whatever. But it is a Shudder movie, right? It's like a Shudder exclusive? That's what it said.
I don't know.
Huh. I don't know. We just did another Shudder movie fairly recent. Oh, yeah, Christmas Bloody Christmas. That was a Shudder movie, too.
Yeah, I don't know if you have AMC or if you have Apple, you can watch it for free. So, but hey, thanks you, Alec, for supporting this Sundance film.
I mean, yeah, I went over to Matt Banniver's house last night, and, he's been on the podcast a million times. But, yeah, we watched it together, and, yeah, I had to pay $5. It's pretty cool.
Do you want to give a brief intro to the movie first?
Yeah, so people haven't seen this film. It's pretty new. So it's basically about these two couples, and they're both separate. They're on vacation in Tuscany in Italy. And it's like two young couples, guy and a girl, and they both have a little boy and a little girl. So they bump into each other in Tuscany. They're all like, hey, you know what? They're pretty nice or whatever. And then about 6 months later, they get a postcard from the family with the little boy being like, hey, do you guys want to come spend some time with us in Holland, because they're a Dutch couple and the other couple is Danish. So they're like, yeah, sure, let's do it. So they go and see them, and they spend a weekend there, and it just gets progressively more uncomfortable the entire weekend. And that's pretty much it, right? Did I miss any of the main plots?
No, it's I read a review that said it's basically the Danish version of Get Out. So,
I don't know if I'd agree with that, but I mean, dude, this movie I think is like the most cringe movie I've ever seen in my life. Just every single interaction was so uncomfortable, dude. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of curious what you thought, because I feel like you could this is going to go either way with you. It's like you're either going to love it or you're going to be like, this was fucking trash and I'm so mad I watched it. So what are your thoughts on this?
No, I liked it. I had never heard of it. Actually, my buddy Kyle responded on one of my TikToks that I reviewed about another video, and he said, check this movie out. And I don't know if you looked it up, but there's another movie called Speak No Evil.
There's 5. There's so many, dude.
Yeah, I thought he was referring to the 2013 one with the little girl with her sewn up face, and it looked terrifying. But yeah, this movie, I had no clue what to expect. I didn't watch a trailer or anything. So I was curious whether it would be in English or not sure what they were speaking. Dutch?
There's Dutch and Danish, yeah.
Which I actually wanted to talk to you about that. How they kind of went back and forth between English and their native language. Mm-hmm. Why do you think they did that?
Because one of the couples spoke Dutch and the other one spoke Danish. So they couldn't interact with each other. They couldn't speak their native language to each other. So they were speaking English to each other. But to speak to their kids, they have to speak in their native language because kids don't understand English. I actually loved that. I loved how they all were, the couples would speak their native language to each other, then English to the other couple. You didn't get that?
No, I liked it. I also thought they made some of it English just to include Americans, I guess, if people want to see this.
No, I think it's because English is it's pretty much like the universal language, especially in Europe, where they're like, I don't speak Danish, you don't speak Dutch, but we both speak English. So that's how they communicate.
Yeah, no, I liked it. A few plot holes that, I always find nitpicks and things, but I thought it was really good for something I've never heard of. And usually I'm not the biggest fan of subtitles, but it almost added to the suspense because they also did English subtitles when they were speaking English, and some of the spelling was different. I don't know if in their language they spell some of the words differently, but it was just really good and so absurdly uncomfortable to watch it.
Yeah, dude. I mean, so the whole time I was watching it, I was waiting for the ball to drop. I was like, there's going to be one moment where it's just horrible. And then that's going to be it. But then I was sitting there thinking wait, what if this is like an experiment where like they keep thinking something's gonna happen. The audience is sitting there like, when's it gonna happen? And it's just like ends like, all right, thank you, and they leave or whatever. That's like I was wondering if that was gonna happen. Obviously, that's not what happens. It's a horrible ending. But I think for me, the point of this movie is stand up for yourself. Don't take any shit from anybody. That's kind of what I took from it.
Especially the Dutch. No,
no, because I mean, I liked this movie a lot until the very end. And then the very end, it just felt like it was all for nothing. And you get no explanation at all. And the couple feels like they learned nothing. I don't know, dude. I mean, I was on edge the entire time until the last 5 minutes. And then I was like, I hate this movie. Right at the end, I was like, fuck this. But I loved everything up until the end.
What did Matt think of it because you were watching it with him?
Same thing. Like, we were both really sitting there being like, what is going to happen? And like, we just kept being like, oh, this is so cringeworthy or whatever. But then literally at the end, we were just like, both looked at each other like, are you serious? Like, what the like, I wanted this to be longer because I wanted there to be more of an explanation, a little bit at least. But I don't know. You like the ending?
I mean, it was unfortunate, but I liked it. Again, some things that I would need some clarification on that we can touch up on towards the end. But I mean, first off, just to, if anyone watches this, like in America, this may seem really odd because if you like went to like Disney World or something and met another couple who lives in like, you know, you're in California right now and say they live in, I don't know, like Utah, and they were like, hey, Alec, why don't you come over for the weekend? That would seem really weird, and like Americans don't really do that, but it's pretty common in Europe. Like I have family in Italy and France, and like they'll tell me, for example, they went on vacation somewhere and they met a couple and they just hop on the train and like go visit the country and stay with them for a few days. And I remember being like, isn't that kind of weird? But Europeans don't really see it like that.
Oh, dude, I'll tell you a really quick story. So when I was living in Boston, I was going to school. I met this Belgian kid just randomly. He didn't even go to my school, but I just bumped into him randomly, became friends with him. And he was studying abroad in Boston. And he's like, hey, if you guys ever study abroad in Europe, you guys should look me up, like Facebook me or whatever. We're like, okay. So I went to study abroad in London, and I literally Facebook messaged him. I was like, hey, dude, like you're in Brussels, right? And he's like, yeah, it's like my 21st birthday. You should come stay with me. So me and a couple of my friends went and just stayed at his parents' house with him and just went to his 21st birthday party. And it was awesome. Like, this didn't happen. Like, this movie didn't happen.
It could have, though.
It definitely could have. But the only thing that stands out to me is that the dad, because we had like a full dinner with like the family, and like the mom didn't speak any English, but the dad spoke a little bit. And all he kept saying to us was like, I know about your parties with the red solo cups and the balls. I know about your parties. Like, that's all. He just kept, he's like, the college parties are fun in America. It's like all he kept asking about was like American Pie and college parties and stuff.
Like very stereotypical things.
Oh yeah, he thought red Solo cups were like, he's like, why do you use those? I was like, they're fucking cheap. I don't know. Like, they're everywhere. But anyway, so I did kind of do this, but it wasn't like, you know, two couples that meet together or whatever. It was like me and a bunch of friends.
Yeah, so I mean, just starting off, I think the tension was built up very well. Like you said, like you kept waiting, and I think it's, let me double check.
It's an hour and 37 minutes.
Hour 37. So dude, when I first saw that, I was like, that's kind of short. But yeah, they did perfect with it. Dude, you know what was a crazy thing? So all throughout the movie, you got these little hints, right, of Patrick, which was the person who invited the family, being kind of weird. And Bjorn keeps noticing it, and it's like he kind of ignores it. So the first sign was when they were in Italy, and he was like staring off his balcony into the night, and he sees Patrick, who he doesn't know, just standing there looking up at him. Mm-hmm. And like, could have been just he was walking by coincidentally, and they, you know, he saw him step out, and he was like, oh, what's that person doing? But he was like standing there and staring. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, that should draw some red flag, but he was like, like, you know, it just happened. And then they invited them, like you said, and the wife was so cautious, and it seemed like the husband was 100% the opposite.
Oh yeah, dude. I think that was like part of the movie. And they explained that, like Bjorn or whatever, Bjorn, he clearly does not like his life. Like with Louisa and their daughter back in Denmark, like you even can see in the beginning where they're at like, you know, some school recital or something like that, and he's just staring at like the back of the seat and is just like, my life sucks. And he's just standing there, and all of a sudden he gets up and he claps just because, like, he's like, oh yeah, I forgot where I am, sort of thing. He's having a midlife crisis, basically. And I think he's like, I want to go see how other people live. And his wife is like so controlling and doesn't let him be who he wants to be. I thought he was gay. I thought that's what they were saying kind of when they were sitting in the car.
I did too.
I don't even know who I am anymore.
I expected, when they were looking at each other, I expected like something to happen. I was like, are they about to do it?
That's why I think he was like pushing it, because he's like, I just want a different life, and I want to see how other people live, and I think this might be my chance, sort of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, so when they had dinner at their house and their friends came over, whatever, and you saw in the background, it was kind of the city they lived in. Yeah. And it reminded me of like movies where you see someone in New York City and you see like the background and he was just drinking and like sighing. And I'm like, you know what? They're just like us. They're just like us. Like, it's like they hate their lives too, man. But yeah, so the whole time the wife was cautious, which like rightfully so. If people you don't really know, they live 8 hours by car away, and they're like, but you know, he convinces her to go, and so they drive down. It seems like they had to take a ferry, and then I looked on the map where the countries were, and I was like, okay, that makes sense. They took a ferry. Yeah. It's kind of like how in Connecticut, if you don't want to drive down to Long Island, you take the ferry. It's like the exact same like geographical thing, and they get there. Very typical scary movie. There's nothing around. Woods everywhere. And the first thing that I noticed that was weird about the house, and I don't know if you caught this, when he went to take the trash out, it looked like they haven't had their trash picked up in like months.
Oh yeah, there's just like a pile in the backyard.
Yeah.
Super weird.
And I was talking to my buddy Kyle about this, kind of like what he thought the movie was about, and he said basically like people being the downside to agreeability, because I feel like any normal person would have seen that and been like, hey man, like you got like 40 trash bags out there. What's going on with those trash bags?
Yeah, I mean, I think these couple, they're just pushovers. And see, that's the thing. That's what I think pissed me off, is I feel like in Italy there needed to be one more instance where this Patrick and the Dutch woman, they're like, oh, we can take advantage of these people. But the only thing that's weird in Italy is like when he's staring at him. That's the only thing that you're like, hey, I wonder why he didn't say anything. But Patrick's going to sit there and be like, you know what we should do? When I stared and looked at him, he didn't say anything. So we should invite them down here and do all this weird stuff to them and then kill them and take their kid. Like, that's not, I don't know. There was too much riding on like, you know what I mean? Like nothing got set up for me to believe that these people were this big of pushovers, that they would just let all of this keep happening to them.
I think they were just overly nice. And I mean, there were, towards the middle of the movie, a lot of things where people would have left. So, like, everything was fine when they got there. I forgot the wife was a vegetarian. And when he handed her the, like, piece of boar that he just roasted, she didn't overly, like, push back on it. She just was no. She should have just said, like, I don't eat meat, which is why there's some, like, psychology aspect to it, because if you remember towards kind of the end, the wife played like the victim card, and she was like, oh, you could have just said, like, we forgot you don't eat meat, it's been like 6 months since we've seen you.
Yeah.
And then the husband, because you know she's like pulling on his heartstrings, because like you said, he's a pushover, and it all just really played well into it. Some of the questions I have is when he said, oh, like, I'm not a doctor, I lied about it.
Yeah.
I don't know if Americans are just more like blunt, but I would have been like, how do you pay bills?
Yeah, 100%. I'd be like, what do you do for work? Like, what do you do? You have a kid and a wife. Like, what do you guys do?
He's like, my wife does OnlyFans.
Yeah, but
like, oh, okay.
But like, that's the thing. Like, this takes place in modern times. I'm assuming they didn't allude to it taking place, you know, before the internet or anything. So they have Facebook, they have Instagram, they have all this shit. Like, they're not looking these people up to be like, hey, let's see who they are. Like, you know, like, I don't know, or email or anything. Like, they just get one postcard and then they just go.
Yeah, so I'm assuming they must have given them their address to stay in touch, because they, you know, how else would they have found them? Yeah, I mean, you just got to assume that these people went on with their lives and they got this letter and they just said, screw it, let's just go down.
I don't know. Dude, come on. You're going to tell me that you know his name. You know his name is Patrick or whatever. You're not going to type in like Patrick Denmark Doctor just to see his LinkedIn profile, just to see that he's a person. I don't know. Dude, I do that with freaking the Hinge dates. Like, you're telling me you're going to go stay with somebody and not even look them up online at all to see if they're a real person?
Realistically, if they were in Italy together and they said, like, let's stay in contact, I'm assuming one of them would have exchanged social media, something, Instagram, Facebook,
Email.
Snapchat, anything.
Dude, email, because the family disappears. So it's like nobody knows what happened to them. I don't know.
So one of the plot holes for me is, and maybe it's just like they do a quantity thing, because at the end when, actually no, I'll reverse. I don't want to hop to the end yet. So yeah, they get there. The wife is still really pushing that. You could tell immediately there's so much uncomfortable tension when the wife is showing everyone where they're sleeping, and like they just assume the little girl wants to sleep in the same room by the little boy, and I was like, it's a little weird. And when he shows his tongue to them, my first thought immediately was, oh, somebody cut that kid's tongue off.
I didn't think that. I didn't really know where this was going, and then obviously the end, it just all happens. But so you thought that wasn't their kid, that they cut his tongue off?
I thought it was their kid, but I thought something happened to his tongue, because he was weird, dude. He was acting weird.
Well, his parents were killed and his tongue got cut off, and he's living with the people that did it to him. I don't think he's going to be the most charismatic little boy.
Yeah, but I just knew something was off about him, and then, but yeah, like the wife kept telling the daughter what to do, and the mother was really pushing back at it. Like, you could tell there was tension between the parents, and then weird shit just kept happening. Like, when Bjorn was having sex with his wife in the bed, and Patrick walked by the like window wall type thing, and again was staring at him, and nobody said anything. Like, did Bjorn want him to see? Did they have some kind of like mutual understanding or something?
Yeah. See, here's the thing: they needed to have the scene, maybe like a precursor scene in Italy where Bjorn and Patrick go away, and Patrick says to him, like, I don't like my life or whatever. And that's what prompts them to get invited. That's why they're pushing, because it feels like so much unjustification for them going there. There's so many red flags pretty much right from the start. I mean, we get the trash in the backyard. We get the, eat the meat sort of thing. Again, that's kind of on Louise. Like, she easily could just be like, I don't eat meat, and then that would be the end of it, probably. But they definitely remembered, and they definitely did it just to make sure that she would do it. There wasn't enough character development for me to believe that these people would ever do these things.
Yeah, I think that's also part of the twist, though, is that they seem like normal people. They they had a little bit of uncomfortable, awkward situations, but it's not like they were in a normal town where they could just be like, all right, we're just going to leave and go to a hotel. They were in the middle of nowhere. They're not from that country. And It would take over 8 hours to get home. So
whatever. That's not even that bad. 8 hours. They don't live in it's not like there's a blizzard or anything like that. And dude, I'm sorry. I don't have kids. I know you have a daughter. Would you leave your fucking daughter with that like Madrigal guy or whatever? It's like, oh, he's like the neighborhood guy that like hangs out and watches all the kids.
No, that guy was definitely weird. And again, that's part of the tension, because they didn't even ask them that they wanted to leave the kid there.
So I'd be like, I'm not leaving my kid with this guy. I don't know this guy.
Right. And that's what plays into the Dutch family, is that they're just like, they keep saying okay to everything, which is why it leads up to my favorite line in the movie, which was when Bjorn said, like, why are you doing this? And Patrick said, because you let me.
See, I didn't like that.
What? That was perfect.
That's like the same thing from The Strangers, dude. Like, why are you doing this? Like, because you were home. It's like, just because like, I don't know, man. The ending pissed me off so much, Justin. Like,
why?
Because, dude, all right, let's talk about it a little bit. So Bjorn walks through the house or whatever by himself. He finds all these pictures of the Dutch couple, Patrick and Karen or whatever, and they've got all of these random kids with. I mean, like, it looks like, literally like dozens, if not like 100. That times that they've done this in this clubhouse, just full of these pictures. He finds Abel, the little kid with his tongue cut out, drowned in their pool. Okay, so then he goes and gets his wife, gets the daughter. They get in the car and they leave. Then I don't even understand how the car just like got stuck in the mud. Like, it just randomly got stuck in the mud. It's like he pulls over and the car gets stuck.
He drove off the road, yeah.
But like that was kind of dumb, sure. So, anyways, that by chance just happened to happen. I'm assuming Patrick drained their gas because they didn't have a lot of gas. And then they fill up. So, again, they're fine. They get going. They park the car. Bjorn gets out, finds a house, comes back. His daughter's gone. Patrick pulls up with the daughter and the wife in the car, and he's like, come on in, thanks for calling, or whatever. Right then, Bjorn knows what's going on. He knows that he's going to lose everything. So, dude, you gotta fight. Are you kidding me? He stood there, took the punches in the face from Patrick, watched his daughter's tongue get cut off in the back of the car, and then his wife gets, like, dude, I'm sorry. Again, I don't have kids, but if I was that father in that situation, I would be fighting until I was dead. There's no way in hell I'm going to let them cut my daughter's tongue off, take her out of the car, then drive me somewhere, make me get naked, and then beat me to death with rocks. There's no way anybody's going to let that happen, Justin.
Okay, yeah, so let's talk about that. So, yeah, I don't know what happened with their gas. First off, they left multiple times. So the wife said, like, hey, I think it was halfway through the weekend. The wife was like, hey, I want to go. Like, I'm not having fun. I'm uncomfortable, whatever. And so they pack up. They sneak off in the morning before they get up. They should have just kept going. And again, if you remember from Tuscany, she left Ninus, her rabbit doll.
Yeah, whatever.
And he went back for it. And that's the second thing that was weird is Patrick kept saying, like, oh, you're a hero. You're so brave for going back and getting the doll, which I'm not sure if that had something to do with the ending. But anyway, so they're pretty far. They're like probably 30 minutes away from this house. And she's like, Ninus. And she's freaking the fuck out. And the mom's like, all right, like, shut up. Like, it's just a doll. We're leaving. And everything would have been fine if they just kept going. And the dad gets out. He looks in the trunk. They're looking everywhere. They can't find this doll. And then he turns around. And here's where I had a problem with it. If the wife wanted to leave that badly, she would not. She didn't say anything. He just turned the car around. She would have been like, no, Bjorn, we're going home. Or especially now, because now they're probably going to wake up. Mm-hmm. So not only did you leave in the morning, but now you're going to go back and be like you thought it was uncomfortable before. What's going to happen when they're like, where'd you guys go?
Yeah.
Like, oh, we snuck out and then we came back. And then they got there. And Agnes, the daughter, is like, oh, Ninus was on the floor by my feet.
Yeah, that was dumb.
And I was like, you didn't see that? The mom didn't look under anything?
Yeah, they should have taken it. Like, Patrick and Karen should have taken the rabbit and been like, they have to come back for the rabbit because they knew from Tuscany how much this little girl loves the rabbit. So it would have been so much smarter if they stole the rabbit.
I thought that's what was going to happen. I thought Bjorn was going to come back in the house and Patrick would be like, oh, you left Ninus. And then it would have played to the significance of like, oh, you came back because you're the hero, you're so brave.
Exactly.
They kind of fucked that part up a bit, but disregarding it. So then they come back and now it's like ultra super awkward, right? Because they're all talking. And this is when the Dutch wife tried to make them seem like the enemies. Like, you didn't tell us you were vegetarian. Like,
yeah, you criticized our restaurant.
Yeah, she made Bjorn feel bad because she was like, I'm sorry, we can't afford a bigger bed for you. And you didn't like the restaurant we took you to, even though it was clearly like a shitty bar where they were the only people eating. And then they made them pay.
Yeah. That's the thing. This whole movie's just cringe and awkward at every scene.
Yeah, very, very cringe. But so then they're back, right? They somehow get convinced to stay again. And then eventually they leave again, which is where we're talking about. So they drive off in the middle of the night. Like you said, they get gas again. Everything probably would have been fine if they just literally kept driving on the highway. Bjorn suspected Patrick was tailing him in the car. And so he decided to like pull off and try and like go off-roading in like a very small European car. And it didn't work. So
yeah.
And that's really the downfall of it, because then he got out, tried to go to this house, and then I'm wondering, how did Patrick get the girls out of the car because the doors were locked? So, assuming Patrick said something nice like, yeah, oh hey, like we'll drive you, don't worry about it, like it's totally fine. Now we're at like, I don't even think, like, this is the most awkward thing in the world, because this is the second time they snuck out.
Yeah.
And you're telling me the wife is just like, okay, like, well, like, how many fucking times you gotta go back?
Well, why didn't Bjorn tell Louisa that? It's like, by the way, that Abel kid's dead in their pool. That's why we're leaving. Not like, hey, come on, honey, get in the car. And then she's sleeping. He's like, it's okay. I'll take care of things. No, tell your fucking wife so she knows what's going on. Dude, that part, literally the ending is the only part that I absolutely hated. Ugh.
And I think that is part, I read a review that said, like, that might be part of the title of it, Speak No Evil, because he saw everything in the clubhouse. He saw Abel being drowned, which I was kind of surprised he didn't, like, rush over and be like, Abel, are you okay? And, like,
Yeah.
He just literally left him. He was like, fuck that kid.
Yeah.
And then, but he didn't speak any evil. So like, he never told his wife that Patrick saw them multiple times and was like staring at them. He didn't tell them about all the garbage bags that were kind of like awkwardly back there. And he didn't tell them about the pictures and everything. So they went with him. And that's why Patrick said, because you let me. Because not one, if he just said like, don't get out of the car if you see them, what would have happened?
They probably would have just shot the wife and took the kid. I don't know.
Did they have a gun though?
No, I don't think they did. But dude, why are they doing this?
Because they want to, man. I don't know.
Yeah, that's not enough for me. That's not enough for me.
Why do they need a reason?
Because this is a very intricate plan. You go to Tuscany, you find a couple that has a kid that's young, you then manipulate them to come to your house, you do weird things to them, hoping they don't leave, and then if they do decide to leave, well, then you're shit out of luck and you just gotta start from scratch again. But then if not, then you end up killing them in the most, like, barbaric way possible, and also plenty of evidence. Their hands are on every rock, and they just leave the naked bodies in a quarry. So, like, are the Dutch FBI just fucking idiots? And they're not like, hey, like, there's bodies here, there's blood all over the place, every single rock we could dust for prints. Like, I just don't get how they keep getting away with this. They must have killed, I mean, easily, like, 50 people, right?
There's a lot of pictures up there. Well, what I thought was going to happen was they were going to make them get in that little hole with water in it, and they would just freeze in the winter, and, like, their bodies would, like, float away.
Yeah.
But then, like you said, they barbarically toss like massive stones at, like, dude, when they were just talking and you just hear like, boom, like the rock against her skull, I was like, oh my God.
No.
That would hurt so bad.
I don't care who you are. Your daughter just got her tongue cut off and stolen from you, and you're going to stand there with these people that don't even have a weapon, and you're going to get naked and walk into a rock quarry and let them throw rocks at you until you die. Are you, like, what world is this? Like, I'm sorry, like, this is not America, because there's no way in hell an American would do that, dude.
Yeah, when they told them to take their clothes off. Yeah, so yeah, they took dude, that scene where the babysitter dude was like choke holding the mom, and then Patrick was just like punching Bjorn, who was just like apparently just being like crippled by his blows. Ugh. And when the wife grabbed her tongue and you saw like her little like child purple tongue stick out, I was like, holy fuck. And she cut them off with like those little like rusty scissors that she used for flowering.
Oh yeah,
that was horrific. And then the dad just like threw up in the air. And they sat like oddly calm in the car. I mean realistically they probably would have fought back, and I don't know, dude. I don't know. I liked it. A few plot holes. The ending was just so brutal though, where this dude was just whipping stones at their heads.
Yeah, I know. It's brutal, but it's unbelievably brutal. I don't believe that anybody would do what they did. I don't believe anybody would just stand there and take all that shit. I just don't. I don't care how big of a pushover you are. You're not going to do that. You're not going to let them kill you. Like,
I think it's deeper. I think the moral of the story is like, whether you don't want to go spend a weekend with people you don't know, or you get naked and they let someone stone you to death, or you don't want to eat the meat because you don't like meat. I think it's all just relative, and the story that the point they're trying to get across is that, like, if you don't want to do it, just like don't do it.
Stand up for yourself. That's the message, I think. Really quick before we end, I will say, though, the one thing I liked about Patrick is when he called out the bullshit about her being a pescatarian. He's like, oh, I didn't realize fish isn't meat. She's like, oh, well, it is. It's like, oh, and what we do in the ocean isn't that bad? It's like,
yeah, dude.
I love that.
Dick, dude.
That's just accurate. He is being a dick, but he's not. He's just being accurate. And people don't want to face the truth.
I would have just been like, you don't have a job.
Yeah, they need to make
job, Patrick.
They need to make this movie in America. It'd be over in like 20 minutes. It's just like, we're leaving.
Oh yeah. The American version, the second something happened, they would have been like, fuck you, I'm out.
Yeah, and like everybody would have guns, and like it would end very differently. All right. Well, anyways, what do you got for this one? What are you gonna give it out of 10?
I got a 6.6 on IMDb. Trying to see if the budget is here.
Yeah, it is. It's 2.5 million euros, I think.
Yeah, it says budget 3.2, estimated million, and then there's they did all the countries separately. Oh my god, I don't know if they made back profit.
It did not. No.
It did not make profit. I would give it a 7.2.
Wow.
Go 7.2.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was good. It was definitely good. And for something that I had no clue about, just like that, it was just so eerie, dude.
Oh, it's beautifully shot, very well acted, and a pretty interesting story that you're very engaged with until the end. And even the end is very brutal. You can't look away. But yeah, I'm going 6.5. It's a good movie. We've totally ruined it, but again, the ending just completely derailed everything for me, which I hate. I hate it because I really liked it so up to that point.
Yeah, if they tweaked a few things, like I said, if they made them jump in that little pool of water, that would have disposed of the bodies at least. But yeah, like you said, eventually someone would notice, like, hey, there's like 50 corpses here.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, honestly, make this movie 20 minutes longer. Give me some explanation, like, who is that, like, the neighborhood guy? Who is he? Why wasn't Abel flipping out when he saw him? Like, he cut off
Yeah.
Abel's tongue, right? Like, you'd think he'd be like, I gotta get away from this guy. But, anyways, well, Justin, it's New Year's, you know? You got any resolutions?
Don't do things you don't want to do.
There you go. All right. Well, everybody, thank you very much for listening in to our discussion on Speak No Evil. If you haven't had a chance, we released Casper the Friendly Ghost, which you can check that out on Wheel of Horror, and we'll be back on Monday with Club Dread.